think like the main thing, and if every, people saw the intro video, it's all about helping you change your meeting culture, right? Like we can give you tools, but if those tools don't make it easy for you to go across your team and your organization to say, hey, we're going to change the way we do meetings here. If they don't make it easy for you, it's, like, what's the point? That's what we've really worked on here. But I think like a lot of this was actually triggered by some work that you did. I mean, you ran a survey recently that found a bunch of really interesting things, right?
Yes. So both the marketing and customer success teams ran a survey together where we found that because of Fellow, people are actually spending 16% less time in meetings. And they're saving so much time that Fellow is saving companies around $7,000 per manager per year when they use Fellow. So those were really exciting stats for us to find out through the survey. And we're really excited to show the features that we built after finding this, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's super interesting. And, some of this is because obviously if you have an agenda and a plan for a meeting, you can actually, instead of an hour, spend 50 minutes in that meeting. But it's also some of these meetings are turning into asynchronous meetings. Some you're finding that like it's half asynchronous, half synchronous. So like there's a lot of ways that this time savings is coming. And I don't even think we're counting any of the time savings for everybody else. We're just saying for managers alone, companies end up saving $7,000 a year.
Yes, those are some of my favorite stories. We had the chance to talk to some of our users recently, and a lot of them have transitioned to asynchronous meetings in Fellow when they realized that they were only sharing status updates. So really thankful to have had those conversations with users. And thank you to all of you who answered the survey.
And so, I mean, this is really interesting. And so what we did was we took that and we said, well, how can we showcase this stuff to everyone? And so why don't I start by sharing my screen and we can dive right in. Let's run through this. So basically, the first thing that we're going to show you, and we worked really hard on this, we've built this new section that we're calling Meeting Analytics. It's true that we had an analytics section before, but they weren't really deep diving meeting analytics to show you how we can help you change the culture, your meeting culture. And so the way you get there is pretty easy. Click on your profile and go to the analytics page. There is a beta label on it, as with a lot of new things that we publish. But this is what the screen looks like. It is pretty comprehensive in the sense of like you can scroll down for quite a bit of time, and there's all these tabs. There's a calendar tab and a members tab, and like each one of these sections has, a lot of things going on. One, I'm very excited for everybody to go through all that stuff. But what I wanted to do is maybe just emphasize a couple of things that I really enjoy looking at. The first one is actually this metric right here, which is at the end of the day, if you bring in Fellow, one of the things that we're saying is your meetings are going to start having agendas. A lot of companies adopt the no agenda, no attenda policy. And for people who use Fellow, that starts to become no Fellow, no meeting. And that wasn't something that we created. A lot of our users are just doing this. And so it's a very interesting concept to say like, sorry, we cannot have a meeting unless there is an agenda and unless it's in Fellow. Looking at these meeting stats, and this is a test account with some test data, but you can see here, for example, 7,000 hours of meeting time. And that includes, if 100 people are in a meeting and they have a 1 hour meeting, that's 100 hours. And so this is also over the last 60 days, just to give you a sense. And so over the last 60 days, that much meeting hours started with an agenda, which is very good. It's 78% up over the last period. The other thing to look at that is a breakdown, right? So 33% of the meetings in this data set, they had meetings, but there was no agenda. I think like the thing to think about, I mean, what would you do with this data?
I mean, I would look at the no agenda percentage and really try to decrease that over time or make that go down. I think it would be a really cool company-wide initiative, right? Like, hey, let's all work towards this number and making it lower with time.
Yeah, totally. So that's exactly kind of how we expect that people will take advantage of that. There's a bunch of insights at the bottom that basically drill down on some of this information. The other thing is like the breakup of types of meetings that you might have. So we break it up into, how much do you spend in one-on-ones, two-person meetings, group meetings, and et cetera. And if we kind of scroll down here, I'll show you some of the other interesting stats. One is you can actually drill down, right? So let's say that you wanted to look at the last 30 days, for example. And what you can do is right now, this shows the data for everybody because it's the entire workspace. But the cool thing is the drill down, the way it works is we give this access to everybody. So for example, if you wanted to check your own team, and we can look you up here. And so this is what it does. It aggregates everybody in your org. And this is what it looks like. So what's really cool about this is how many hours are spent in meetings with an agenda. You can kind of see the breakdown of how that's happened. There's some other things as well. We talk about like percentage of meeting collaboration, like, the people who are attending the meetings, how many of them are actually collaborating on the meeting itself, which is a sign of inclusiveness. This is one of my favorite ones. It's like, how much time did you actually spend preparing for the meeting? Obviously, yours looks really good because most of it has good preparation time. And this is measured by, how far in advance are you actually preparing for this meeting? If you're doing it like 10 seconds before the meeting starts, or like you're writing the agenda while the meeting is going on, maybe that's not as great, but yours here looks really good. And you can kind of see that. The other one is we like to say meetings should have clear takeaways, right? And so this kind of graph breaks it down in terms of, how many of your meetings have clear takeaways and which ones don't. And then we also emphasize feedback. So this chart will give you some information about how many of your meetings have feedback and how many don't. So it's pretty comprehensive. There's some other views as well. You can see kind of like the breakdowns completely by everybody on your team. So you can see those sorts of things.
Awesome. I can see some teams getting a little friendly competition going on here to make sure they're preparing ahead for their meetings, to make sure they're completing action items. I know some users have already told us that they do this internally, and it really helps them build that culture, right, of efficient meetings.
Exactly. And so one of the other ones, I'll mention this as well, but like, I think really the power here is, we report on focus time, which is another thing. This is also an important one, which is like the size of meetings. Are they tiny? Are they small, medium, or large? You don't have any large meetings. So that's good. I mean, in general, we want to reduce the person hours that are spent on any particular task, right? To the most efficient level. And then of course, there's like the meeting length. And you also don't have any, you have a very small percentage of what's considered long meetings, right? So I think in general, and this is, over the last little while, and it's for your whole org, I think I guess, as someone who leads a team, who's a leader in an organization, I mean, what would you do with this data?
Yeah, I was going to say, I would love to see if my team is having too many meetings that are way too long, or that have too many attendees and are large meetings. And I think it would be an efficient way to just show them the data and say like, hey, are we having too many meetings that are taking too much time for too many people, right? I think it's very insightful as a leader to look at how the team is spending their time in meetings and really try to make those efficient, and also reduce the number of meetings. We want you to have meetings that are effective, not just a lot of ineffective meetings.
So I think like the point to get across is that, a lot of companies are adopting Fellow for the whole company, thousands of people at the same time. And obviously we have companies of all sorts of sizes using Fellow, but say that you want to deploy Fellow at a 2,000 person company as an example. I mean, to really change your meeting culture, you also have to give those tools to the individual managers on the team. Like how's a director of engineering going to be able to change the culture of meetings if they don't have the tools to be able to see what's going on, right? So I think like this is super powerful. We're very committed to helping you change your meeting culture. And whether you're a small team, a large organization, like you can use this to make this happen. And we're very excited to get it into your hands.